What is going on? Welcome to EdNews.com. It's your host, EJ Carrion. And this week really is just a week of tracking that we are going through some historical changes in education. The system of education is being pressed so hard that that it shows like we have to think differently. We've asked staff to be flexible. We've asked students to be flexible. We asked school leaders to be flexible, but the system is breaking due to capacity, due to the transition, due to people valuing their time and their flexibility more as humans. And so the system has to get flexible. And I just think these three stories I want to hit, it's just showcases of how we're living through history and how we respond as leaders, the leaders that are still in their schools, is big. Because and here's the part: we don't have time to really think about the long term changes that we need to make because we got a lot of fires right in front of us, and there's a lot of things that don't make it easier. So I don't know if this comes from the state level, from the federal level, but we are breaking and we got to adapt. So let's look at what we got. So what I'm going to talk about first of an example of how things are breaking, we're going to go ahead and look at this Montgomery County school, which has been kind of dealing with ongoing kind of negotiation between the lack of confidence with the union and leadership and a lot of fighting and internal fighting. You're seeing a lot of this across school districts where parents are asking for more. But what's crazy is that the school system is just dealing with capacity issues, right? The Montgomery County Association for Administrators and Principals said in a letter to school system officials Thursday, arguing for a chance to pause and do more planning related to operations, staff shortage, and contingency plans, right? They make it saying, hey, we're not advocating to close and return to virtual instruction for the remainder of the year, but the operational impact of the pandemic cannot be ignored. Leaders are experiencing extreme physical, mental stress and are working under conditions that cannot be sustained. So what do we do, right? It's we're if anyone's still stressed about outcomes and us hitting measures, this generation of kids are living through the innovation, right? They're living through the change we have to make and are going to have to deal with those impacts. And because we have to change the system, but while changing the systems, we're not going to get the results that we need, that we aspire to get, because when we change the way we do things, it also doesn't create the same result how we used to do it the old way. So look how students are being impacted. Let's go to this article here. This is just talking about college enrollment dropped again in the fall of 2021. Let's go ahead and dive in. Fall of 2021. Let's see where we are. You have New York Times, the enrollment crisis at U.S. institutions of higher learning continue a second year in the pandemic, even as coronavirus vaccines become widely available for students last fall. According to the latest numbers from the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center, total undergraduate enrollment dropped 3.1% from the fall of 2020 to the fall of 2021, bringing the total decline since the fall of 2019 to 6.6%, a total of 1.2 million students. 1.2 million students. Going down here, though, it kind of talks about how the new data showed that enrollment in community colleges was down 13.2%, or 706,000 students compared with 2019. Community colleges are really feeling this at the biggest level. Now, the bright part of the data was that enrollment in the first year stabilized, went up 0.4% to 8,100 students, even though first year enrollment is 9.2% lower than pre-pandemic levels. Kicker here, right, is I actually think this problem is going to get innovated because it impacts the private sector more quickly, right? They need workers, and you want to talk about there's shortages of workers um, everywhere, and people are transitioning. And when people are transitioning, they may not have the right qualifications or the right skills of the thing they want to do, but you're going to get the Amazons, the Microsofts, the Googles, the Facebooks. I mean, you're seeing Walmart and Target all investing in upskilling and helping people pivot their careers. So this is somewhere where I think we're going to innovate, but innovating high schools and building teacher capacity. Um, I don't know if we don't take responsibility of that as leaders. Uh, it's coming. I mean, at the rate, it's coming where the demand, the supply and demand issue, if we try to stay 5 days fixed with the scheduling. So lot of interesting stuff. Final one I wanted to hit is because of the shortages, right, in schools, you're even having a way that people are trying to solve this problem is you're having schools deal with who are facing shortages as parents. So parents are able to move past the 30 college hours that are usually required to be a substitute teacher. So you're seeing schools in Austin do this to deal with the capacity, and not just substitute teachers. They're asking for assistants and clerk work, cafeteria support. It's everywhere. And so yeah, just an interesting time, and yeah, I'm really just I think we're living through an interesting history of uh, we have to get more flexible as a system, and we're living through it. And the leaders that come out of it to help cast visions for their districts, for their communities, be able to stabilize shortages, um, is going to be important. So that's where we are this Friday. How we're feeling at ednews.com with all the stories is that the system needs to be flexible because staff, students, and school leaders have been super flexible this whole time. Parents been flexible, and we're trying to hold up an old standard that just doesn't work anymore. Right? Google, Facebook, they wanted their people to work in the office, but then their people said we're working from home, and they had to change the supply and the demand and things like that. And so that's where we are. And unfortunately, this gap of students are also having to deal with the consequences of this shift. And so that just kind of goes too with what kind of support long term, adult education, uh, the ramifications of this on this generation uh, is an interesting time. So thanks for watching ednews.com, and looking forward to kind of stay in touch on how are we meeting capacity issues in our system.